You haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now let's go. It was the summer I turned 33, and at that point, I had been married for almost 10 years. Marriage had once been this passionate whirlwind of love and adventure, but somewhere along the way, it had changed. I started to feel like my husband and I had turned into siblings. We lived in the same house, shared responsibilities, and even enjoyed each other's company, but the romance had faded. The sex had become routine and eventually disappeared altogether. One evening, after another uneventful dinner of leftover lasagna, I decided to talk to my husband David about it. He was sitting on the couch, glued to some crime drama on TV, with his feet comfortably propped on the coffee table. I sat down next to him, nervously fiddling with my fingers. "David, can we talk?" I started, trying not to sound too dramatic. He muted the TV, turning to me with a slightly amused look. "Talk? This sounds serious." He gave me a lopsided grin. "It kind of is," I replied, trying to ignore the way my heart pounded in my chest. "It's about us, about our intimacy." David's grin faded, and he let out a sigh. "Emily, come on. 10 years of marriage. What do you expect? Passion doesn't last forever. Not after kids and biddles and 10 years of seeing each other in sweatpants." He shrugged, his tone almost dismissive. I bit my lip, determined not to let his indifference derail me. "But it doesn't have to be like this," I insisted. "We could try. We could make an effort." David gave me a sympathetic smile. "If it makes you feel better, sure. We can try." He paused, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly before adding, "But if you really want to, be with someone, I won't stop you, just as long as I never hear about it." He gave a strained laugh, trying to make light of the situation. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, so I nodded, forcing a smile, and let the conversation die. But inside, I was conflicted. It hurt to think that he didn't care enough to fight for us, yet I understood. Life had worn us down. A few weeks later, my friend Jessica invited me to a party. It was one of those art gallery events where people pretended to know a lot about paintings and drank too much wine. I thought it would be a good distraction, a night out, away from the house, away from the heavy thoughts about my marriage. That's where I met him. His name was Oliver, and he was the kind of guy who looked like he belonged in an old French movie, the kind with a vintage hat, an unbuttoned linen shirt, and an effortless charm. He had dark, wavy hair that fell just above his shoulders, and his glasses made him look like the intellectual type, the kind that was always pondering something profound. He was an artist, of course he was, and when he spoke, his voice had this smooth, velvety quality that made every word sound like poetry. We started talking about the pieces in the gallery, then about art in general, and eventually about life. He made me laugh, and I realized it had been a long time since I had genuinely laughed. The kind of laugh that made your cheeks hurt. We exchanged numbers that night, and before I knew it, we were texting each other daily. It was exhilarating, like being a teenager again. He'd send me sketches he was working on, and I'd send him pictures of the flowers in my garden. We'd be at cafes, sneak out to concerts, and walk along the river, talking about everything and nothing. One afternoon, we sat on a bench in the park, and he looked at me with those intense brown eyes. "Emily," he said, "you're beautiful. You know that?" I laughed, shaking my head. "You're just saying that because I let you talk my ear off about your paintings." "No, I mean it," he insisted, leaning closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You have this spark, like you're just waiting to explode with life. You deserve more than what you're getting." His words hit me harder than I expected. In that moment, I felt seen, really seen for the first time in years, and I knew I wanted to be with him. Even if it was just for a while, even if it meant breaking the rules of my marriage. We started an affair, and for a while it was everything I needed. I felt alive again, desired, adventurous. He'd bring me flowers, and we'd sneak away to his studio, where he'd paint while I watched, or we'd lay on the floor, tangled together, talking about dreams we were too scared to share with anyone else. I loved the way he made me feel, but there was always a part of me that felt guilty, that knew it couldn't last. A year went by, and things started to change. The excitement began to fade, and the secrecy that once felt thrilling now felt heavy. I could feel David's eyes on me more often, the questions lingering, even if he never asked. And Oliver. Oliver seemed distant too, like maybe he was tired of hiding, tired of being the secret. One evening as we sat in his studio, I knew it was time to end it. "Oliver, I think we need to stop," I said softly, my eyes meeting his. He looked at me, confused, then nodded slowly. "I felt it too," he admitted. The spark. "It's not the same anymore, is it?" "No," I said, tears staining my eyes, "and I can't keep doing this to my family." He reached over, brushing a tear from my cheek. "I'm going to miss you, Emily." "I'm going to miss you too," I whispered, my voice cracking. We sat in silence for a while, just holding each other, knowing it was the end. It hurt, but it was the right thing to do. Back home, things were much better. David never asked, but I knew he suspected. He wasn't an idiot, and the tension between us was palpable. I tried to rekindle things between us to go back to being just Emily and David, but it wasn't easy. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me, his eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and something else. Maybe sadness, maybe relief. It was hard to tell. One night, after putting the kids to bed, I finally spoke up. "David, can we try again?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He really looked at me, and for the first time in a long while, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't indifference. He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Emily, I don't know. I want to, but it's hard. We've both made mistakes." "I know," I said, tears welling up, "but I'm willing to try if you are." He nodded slowly, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I guess we can give it a shot. I mean, we've been through worse, right?" I laughed, wiping my tears away. "Yeah, I guess we have." And that's where we are now, trying. It's not perfect, and there are days when I still wonder if we're doing the right thing. But for now, we're giving it another chance. I'm learning that marriage isn't always about passion. Sometimes it's about finding a way back to each other, even when it feels impossible. Sometimes it's about the small moments, like David making my favorite tea without asking, or me sitting next to him while he watches his crime dramas, even though I still don't understand why he likes them so much. Maybe we'll make it. Maybe you won't. But at least we're trying. And for now, that's enough. A few months after things began to settle down, David suggested we take a family trip, just the four of us. He thought it might be good to get away from the routine to spend time together without the distractions of work, school, or the ghosts of everything that had happened. We packed up the car and drove to a cabin by the lake, a secluded spot where we could just be a family. It was awkward at first. The silence between David and me was heavy, filled with everything we weren't saying. But as the days went by, something started to shift. We played board games with the kids, roasted marshmallows by the fire, and even went on long hikes together. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, David and I sat on the porch, watching the stars. "You know," he said, his voice soft, "I was really angry at you for a long time." I looked down, my chest tightening. I know. I was angry at myself too. He reached over, taking my hand in his, but I think I understand why you did it, and I'm not saying it was okay, but I get it. I wasn't really there for you, was I? I swallowed hard, trying to keep my emotions in check. We both made mistakes, David. I wanted to feel something again. He nodded, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. I know, and I want to make things better. I want us to be better for the kids, but also for us. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I leaned my head on his shoulder. I want that too. We sat there for a long time, just holding hands, the cool night air wrapping around us. It wasn't a grand gesture and didn't magically fix everything, but it was a start, a small step towards something better. Back home, life slowly began to take on a new rhythm. We were kinder to each other, more patient. David started leaving little notes for me on the bathroom mirror, on the fridge, even tucked into my purse. Just small things like, "Hope you have a great day," or "Thanks for being you." And I found myself doing the same, making his favorite breakfast on Sundays, sitting with him during his crime dramas, even if I still found them boring. One afternoon, while the kids were at a friend's house, David came into the kitchen where I was baking cookies. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "You know," he said, his voice playful, "I think I'm falling in love with you all over again." I turned my head to look at him, a smile tugging at my lips. "Oh yeah, even after all these years and all my flaws, especially after all your flaws," he said, pressing a kiss to my cheek. "We're both imperfect, Em. But I think that's what makes us work." I laughed, shaking my head. "You're such a sap." "Maybe," he admitted, spinning me around to face him, "but you love it." And he was right. I did love it. I loved him. And maybe that was enough to keep us going, keep us trying, one day at a time. Maybe we would make it after all.